And we are back. Predictions week 2 of this NFL season. Ending last week, I went 11-5, getting the Ravens Chiefs, the Vikings Giants, the Patriots Bengals, the Jaguars Dolphins, and the Jets 49ers games wrong. If I didn't mention your game, that means, well, I got it right. And to mention as well, I did get my lock of the week right in the Buffalo Bills versus the Cardinals. I picked the Bills as my lock, and they win. Which now means that I can no longer pick the Buffalo Bills as a lock. Speaking of Bills, starting out September 12th, that's tomorrow, as I'm recording this, 8:15 p.m. All games are in Eastern Standard Time. We have the 1-0 Bills versus 1-0 Dolphins. The Bills, as we were just talking about, came off of a 34-28 win over the Cardinals. They were trailing majority of that game before stepping ahead late. Josh Allen really had a great second half. The first half, however, the Bills were very underwhelming. And I could see that being very similar with this game. However, it kind of works out considering the Miami Dolphins had the same thing. They ended up winning their game 17-14, I believe. 20-17 over the Jaguars. And same thing goes. They had a very lackluster first half, only putting up 7 points. Its second half, they put up 13, which was enough to propel them to the victory. I do think the Dolphins are going to win this game. And this game is going to be probably the trickiest game to predict all week. It's a division game with both teams doing, very similar week one. However, what it ultimately comes down to is I do believe the Jaguars are a better team than the Cardinals, so I'm going to give it the nod to the Dolphins for beating the better team. Moving to our 1 o'clock game, September 15th, we no longer have any Friday games. We have the 49ers and the Vikings. Both of these teams, are also conveniently 1-0. As the 49ers, they win 32-19 against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football, while the Vikings 28-6 win over the Giants. Both teams were very dominant in the games they played. I mean, there was really no point past the first quarter where you had any doubt for either of these teams about who would win, at least in my opinion. And ultimately what it's going to come down to again is who has the better team. The 49ers beat the Jets, who in my opinion are significantly better than the Giants. And I also do believe the 49ers are better than the Vikings. So I am going to take the 49ers. And I'm going to be honest, I don't see this game being very close. I see the 49ers dominating. I see the Vikings kind of having that week one dominant game and then kind of falling back into reality of we're not that good of a team. Moving to our next one, we have more battles of the 1-0 Seahawks and Patriots. The Seahawks, they won 26-20 against the Broncos, although that game was not nearly as close as that score obviously makes it look. The Seahawks really dominated that one. And the Patriots, kind of the same thing, 16-10 win over the Bengals, However, that game was also not very close. It was kind of dominated by the Patriots. However, the Patriots couldn't really score. It was more of the Patriots' defense was putting in the works, while the offense was doing just enough to get the win. I do think the Seahawks are going to win. Once again, it's going to come down to I do believe the Seahawks are the better football team. I also believe same thing about the Patriots as the Vikings. They weren't expected to be good. I feel like they're going to kind of fall back into reality in this game and then the next few coming. So, sorry Patriots, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks this time. Giants and Commanders. The Giants and Commanders, this is finally a battle of winless teams. Both 0-1, one of them seeking to get their first win. Giants 28-6 loss to the Vikings, while the Commanders 37-20 loss to the Buccaneers. Now, the thing we need to know is both teams got destroyed. However, the Commanders actually gave it a decent fight. Obviously, it was not close, but 20 points is nothing to, complain about, especially when you have a rookie quarterback and, you're going against a team who won a playoff game last year. And because of that, I'm going to take the Commanders because both these teams I do believe are going to do very bad this season. However, I do believe when it comes down to these two teams, I will give the Commanders the nod. However, this game is one I am completely unsure about because it is a division game between, in my opinion, two of the bottom 5 teams in the league. So, this game could go either way. Moving to our next one is Chargers-Panthers. The Chargers, they win 22-10 over the Raiders. That game was dominant. The Raiders did have a chance to kind of take the lead towards the end, but they decided to punt the football instead of going for it from 4th and 1 on Chargers territory for some reason. And then the Panthers 47-10. We don't need to talk about it. I'm going to pick the Chargers simply because, well, 1, they won. 2, they didn't get blown out. And 3, they're the better team. And in my opinion as well, I think the Raiders and Saints going into this season were ranked very similarly. So the fact that, the Chargers were able to hold the Raiders to 10 points while the Panthers were able to hold the Saints to 47 while only scoring 10 feels pretty eye-opening. But I will also be picking the Chargers as my lock of the week. For how lock of the week doesn't work, in case you missed last episode, is every single week I get to pick one team only. If I pick them, that's it. You can't pick them again the rest of the season. So you have to be strategic. Do you want to get the good teams out of the way, or do you want to kind of pick the bad teams who have, an easier matchup? One of the great picks you could have done last week was picking the Saints. I mean, obviously that game going into it was unknown, but that would have been a good pick. And it does not matter if they win or lose. It just matters, that you can't use them again. So you have to be strategic. Obviously the goal is to go 18-0. However, you can only pick every team once, so you have to be strategic with, what teams you pick. Because you can't pick the Chiefs every week, so sometimes you might have to pick bad teams in order to, win you some football games. Next is the Saints-Cowboys. We were just talking about the Saints. Once again, another battle of the 1-0s. The Saints ended up winning 47-10 against the Panthers. Dominant fashion. Derek Carr looking like he could be an early season MVP player. However, it's week 1 and you beat the Panthers, so I don't know how much we can really credit you there. And the Cowboys, they won 33-17 against the Browns. However, you have to emphasize this again. That score is a fluke. That game was way more dominant in the Cowboys' favor than, 2 scores. I'm going to take the Cowboys. It's the smart move. The Cowboys look like they could be the best team in the league already. The Saints, you also do look that way. However, you beat a significantly worse team. So, I don't really know how much we can credit it. The Panthers would potentially struggle in the UFL. Let's be honest. Next, we have Colts and Packers. Battle of the 0-1s. The Colts, they barely lose 29-27 against the Texans. They held their own, though. And the Packers, 34-29 loss against the Eagles in Brazil. This game, if Jordan Love was healthy, I think this would potentially be one of the games of the week because of how well the Colts did while struggling against the Texans. You look at that. The Colts didn't really play very well. However, they were only able to lose by 2 points. And it's not like the score is, closer than the game seemed. The Colts kept their own that game while struggling. I am going to pick the Colts simply because Jordan Love is not playing more than likely. Obviously, we're not going to rule it out of the equation. But I think even if Jordan Love plays, I don't think he's going to do very well considering I assume he's going to be under a lot of pain, and he's not going to be able to kind of scramble or nothing. So, no matter who's at quarterback, I'm taking the Colts. Next, we have Browns-Jaguars. The Browns, once again, another battle of the 0-1s. 33-17 loss to the Cowboys, and it wasn't even close. Sean Watson was getting booed by his own fans. His own team. That's sad. Meanwhile, you have the Jaguars. 2017 loss. They had it, and then they fumbled it away. Kind of reminds me how the second half of their season went last year. I am going to pick the Jaguars simply because as long as Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback, I do not know if I can pick him. He used to be such a good quarterback, and, 2 years will do that to you. So, yeah. Jets, Titans, once again, 0-1. Jets, they lose 32-19, I believe. Yes, against the 49ers. Wow, the Titans, 24-17 to the Bears. The thing we need to know about the Titans is they did not allow a single offensive touchdown. And they still somehow lost. The Titans were leading this game at 17-0 at one point. Didn't allow an offensive touchdown. And still somehow lost 24-17. I'm going to pick the Jets simply because if the Titans struggled that much against the Bears while not scoring a single offensive touchdown, I don't know how well they're going to do against the Jets. Because in my opinion, the Jets are a better team. And I think this game could potentially be a blowout. This could be the end of the Mayo Man. Next, we have Buccaneers-Lions. Battle of the 1-0's Buccaneers 37-20 win over the Commanders. Wow, the Lions 26-20 overtime win against the Rams. The thing we need to know about that overtime is, once again, I do think the overtime rules need to be changed again. I think both sides do deserve to get the football at least once. So, yeah. Because the Lions got the football in overtime and never looked back. They didn't even give the Rams a chance. And I do think the Buccaneers are going to pull the upset on this one. The Buccaneers just looked like the better team week one. I think this will be contender for game of the week, maybe even game of the season. These are two teams who I think will be making the playoffs and will be competing for a Lombardi or at least, an appearance in the Super Bowl. But give me the Buccaneers in the upset. Our final 1 o'clock game is going to be the Raiders-Ravens. I don't even want to talk about this one. The Raiders, they sucked in their week one, 22-10. While the Ravens, 27-20 loss, they were a few inches, maybe even an inch away from, potentially winning that game. They would have gone for 2, so who would have knows after that? I'm taking the Ravens. I'm sorry, Raiders, but you guys suck. There's no denying that. Ravens, you kept up with the Chiefs, so give me the Ravens. Rams-Cardinals as our first 405, and only 405 game. The Rams, as we were talking about shortly ago, lost 26-20 in overtime to the Lions, while the Cardinals, they kept their own, 34-28 against the Bills. Now, if we're talking sheer off of last week, I would be inclined to pick both teams. Both teams did, in my opinion, the exact same. They played against one of the best teams in the league. They lost by 6 points. They took it all the way to the very end. This on paper is a fierce match, and to top it all off, it's going to be a division game. And I think it will live up to the expectations that I have just set. However, I'm going to give the tiebreaker to the Rams because I do believe the Rams are the better team. I do believe that the Lions are better than the Bills. But I think this game has potential to be a game-winning field goal. So, yeah. Next, moving to our 1-2, 425 slates, we have the Bengals at the Chiefs. The Bengals lost 16-10 against the Patriots, while the Chiefs 27-20 against the Ravens. What we need to talk about, however, is the Bengals week one curse. They have never, or at least since Joe Burrow showed up, I believe they've won one of their week one openers. And I believe that was the year they went to the Super Bowl. They do not seem to be a good week one team, so I am not fazed by them yet. I am going to pick them to win this game because of how well they have done. against the Chiefs in the regular season. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are a very patterned team. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, Tigers have stripes. They suck in week 1. They do good against the Chiefs. I mean, it doesn't make sense, so I'm going to take the Bengals and assume the pattern continues. Steelers Broncos. The Steelers, they won 18-10. Another scenario where they did not score a single offensive touchdown. Instead, Chris Boswell booting them to the win with 18 points. While the Broncos, they fell 26-20 to the Seahawks. And Bo Nix didn't look very good in his debut. However, I do believe things will change. It sounds like Justin Fields will be playing for this game as well. And I believe the Broncos will be ready for him. And I believe the Broncos are going to win this game. And I believe the Broncos are going to do very well. I don't know how well they're going to manage against TJ Watt and that Steelers, pass rushing unit. However, if they're able to get over that hurdle, I feel like it's going to be a very easy win. And I feel like that's going to be what all of their film goes towards this week, is stopping that pass rush. Sunday Night Football, we have the Bears and Texans. The Bears, 24-17 win against the Titans without a single offensive touchdown. We have to keep mentioning it. It's incredible how two teams were able to do it last week. Texans, 29-27 win over the Colts. Very close fought game. Texans looked like they weren't really the best they could be. However, they were still very dominant. I am going to take the Texans because what we have to realize is the Texans are way better than the Titans. I don't think that offense is going to be stumped to the point where they're going to lose without allowing a single touchdown. What we also need to talk about is how the Texans' defense is significantly better than the Bears' offense. They allowed a bunch of deep plays last week. If they're able to just figure that out, I think they will be good. And plus, you have to remember, Caleb Williams is still a rookie. We don't know how well he's going to adapt with the deep ball and, probably more pressure than, the Titans got last week. So give me the Texans, and I don't necessarily know if this game will be close. It's kind of a coin flip, but I think the Texans are winning in almost every scenario. Finally, Monday, September 16th, 8:15 p.m. Falcons and Eagles. I mean, looking at the start of the season, this game was supposed to be really good. However, the Falcons lost 18-10 without allowing a single offensive touchdown. We have to keep mentioning it. While the Eagles, 34-29 in Brazil, and we have to talk about them considering their first 2 drives resulted in turnovers, which resulted in Packers field goals, which was very good by them. Well, bad about the turnovers. But the fact that they allowed field goals both times when the Packers pretty much started in the red zone both times, I believe. That needs to be talked about as well. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I think the Falcons are going to do significantly better than they did last week. However, I don't think there's going to be a doubt in my mind that the Eagles, lose this game. Because, simply put, the Eagles, quite opposite of the Bengals, are always showing up early in the season. I mean, I believe the past 2 years they've been the last undefeated team. That doesn't happen to any normal team. However, I will put my money on it. I won't. Don't put that. No, don't keep that energy. I do believe it will happen again this year. I think they will be the last undefeated team. With that being said, that is going to do it. To recap my picks, however, we have the Dolphins, 49ers, Seahawks, Commanders, Chargers, Cowboys, Colts, Jaguars, Jets, Buccaneers, Ravens, Rams, Bengals, Broncos, Texans, Eagles, all winning their games with the Chargers being the lock of the week. If I didn't say your team, sorry, it means you're losing. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did. Oh, actually, let's go over the quick playoff picture. So according to the NFL, so this is what they believe the playoff picture is. The number 1 seeds, which means if it was to end today, they would get a first round bye, would be the Chargers and Saints. I know, very crazy. The 2 seeds would be the Dolphins and Vikings. The Dolphins are realistic. The Vikings, on the other hand, would never see, with the 7 seeds being the Bills and Cowboys. Same thing. The fact that you have those teams so far down, also unrealistic. 3 seeds would be Texans, Eagles. I can see that. Very realistic. 6 seeds being Patriots, Lions. Going into the season, I could see the Lions if they lost their division. However, I don't believe they're going to lose it now that, Jordan Love is going to probably miss some time. And Patriots, I just don't see them making the playoffs at all. And then 4 seed, we have Steelers, 49ers. Steelers, I don't see at all. 49ers, I don't see, but I understand. Because you look, if you replace the Saints with Buccaneers, I could very well see this being the actual playoff picture to an extent. And then Vikings with Lions, obviously. I think there's a chance that there's going to be a clear winner in all 4 divisions now. It just might happen that the 49ers fall to that 4 spot. With the 5 seeds being the Chiefs, Buccaneers, I see both these teams making the playoffs. However, I see both these teams winning their division. So, I don't agree with those either. All right, well, now everything's officially over. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed.